Okay, Microsoft Corporation, they just released their full year 2026 results. Because of their reporting, some of these companies, they follow a custodian calendar. So their year can end half year, like the likes of Airtel. FA is already in 2027, so it depends. But the most important thing, whenever you get the result, it always reflects what is in the market, so it's not chewing it. So Microsoft, you see that revenue grew over 18% to the tune of 331.8 billion. Operating margin expanded to 46.8%. Then the AI side of the Azure grew by 41%. Then the commercials, we are up by 87% to the tune of 678 billion. And the headline is of course strong, but there are two opposing forces that are driving it. So let's dive in. Like, if this is your first time, you know that we break our analysis into 4 sections. You have the headlines, you have the side that talks about what happened, what we found out, the evidence backing our findings, and what to watch going forward. So that is how our analysis here is broken down for here. Then for the graphic side, we look at the price chart, what the current market is saying. Then we look at the income statement, of course, the one we downloaded, work it out, strip it out, and clean it. Then we have the balance sheet, then the cash flow. So let's start with the graphic side of things. So for the graphics, let's look at the price charts. So this is a price chart of Microsoft. You can see from way back. This is the weekly chart of Microsoft. So you can see what price did at a time. So somewhere earlier, the all-time high of Microsoft was around $560. It dipped back. You can see swings in the market. That is why sometimes if you invest in if you invest in a solid, fundamentally backed company at the right valuation, because you can get it wrong. For example, buying at this high, since then you couldn't have recovered. So it's a good company at a time, but the valuation, the current valuation, does it support it? Your entry and stuff like that. Is why we have firms, research firms, that watch the market. You don't blindly buy it. Or people that bought somewhere here, you need to wait. Sometimes these things are 1 year later. You need to wait 2 years to even exit the high. So that is why timing also matters. Don't be deceived. So the current price of Microsoft, this is the price of around $490 as at the time of recording. So let's look at the income statement. So for the income statement, so this is the income statement. So if you look at the top line, you can see that the revenue, combined revenue, grew by 17%. If you look at the midline side of things, the operating income also grew by 20%. Then if you look at the bottom line also grew by 31%. The earnings per share also went up. Then if you look at the margins are all looking in, just that the gross margins dropped a little bit compared to what it was in the previous quarter. And then you can look at that. Remember, you can always download these graphics from our S page. Of course, you look at the stuff like that, they all look great. So let's go to the balance sheet. Before we now give you facts behind the numbers, just to walk you in. So you can see that the total assets, of course, it grew by 22%, 22.5%. Then if you look at the equities, so equities grew, liability. Then if you look at the current ratio, somehow dropped from what it was before. Then other return on equity year to this over 30% G's, and then return on asset to grew, all looking up. So finally, before we now go to the fact behind the numbers, let's look at the cash flow, free cash flow. So for the free cash flow, wow, slightly dropped from last full year 2025. It was at 71.6 billion. Now it is at 66.99 billion. So facts behind the numbers. So if you look at the free cash flow, it dropped a little bit. Then the revenue is actually operational. Yes, there are some revenues you see. You'll be asking, is it operational? Is it accounting gimmicks? No, it is overwhelmingly operational. even though FX roughly added 2 points to the top line, and there was a minor drag on the Azure cost line, so the AI side of things, the cost line there. Then other cloud services grew. Is once you're segmenting it by segment, they have different segments side of things for products though before we now talk of segments of income. So you see that their cloud services grew by 41%. Microsoft 360 commercials cloud grew by for the commercial clouds grew by 17%. Microsoft 360 Copilot and their E5 driving also grew. The LinkedIn side of things grew by 11%. So then, of course, the Dynamics 360 grew by 80%. These are different product lines in case you are not familiar with it then. But the bulk of the revenue is concentrated more. So you can say that this is a demand-led year, and it concentrates more on AI and cloud consumption. Then if you take down to the segment side of the business, you see that they have a segment they call productivity and business process. That one grew by 20% as a bulk of segment. Then they have the intelligent cloud segments of their business. It grew by 28%. Then we have more personal computing, which where you find your Windows games research. That one grew by 2%. So geographically too, US make a bulk of their revenue. A bulk of their revenue came from the US, over 50%. That 50% of the pre-tax income came from the US, while the foreign, which is other markets outside US, grew just by 15%. From 69, the other one for the US side of things grew from 69.2 billion to 103 billion. While for foreign, the revenue grew to, like the earnings there grew from 54.4 billion to now 62.3 billion. So that is the divergence. So more sales in the US. And then the balance sheet, of course, there is share buybacks. There is this open AI deal, which we have talked about when we covered the Q3. Because they had a stake in OpenAI, so OpenAI revalued their assets, so it added to the gain. Microsoft had another one. There is a share buyback, and also if you look at the balance sheets, also there is capex commitment, especially capital expenditure towards the AI arm race that all of them are pursuing. So it's so that's it about it. So if you want to read going forward, so you can always come and read it up and get a sense of what it is. So see you on the next one.